Welcome to Season 6 of Outstanding Women Leaders, Witty and Wise Conversations. I'm your host, Katie Eads, founder and chief owl at Outstanding Women Leaders Professional Coaching and Podcast, an organization dedicated to empowering women in leadership, relationships, and life. Owl is on a mission to host 100 million witty and wise conversations that inspire you, disrupt the way you think, and stir your soul into aligned action. That inspiration begins with a set of rules to guide our conversation. Nobody gets to be right. Nobody gets to be wrong. Everybody gets to be vulnerable. And my favorite rule, everything is included. We do not edit here. This conversation is exactly what it needs to be in this moment in time. We've asked our guests to join us via video to allow us to create authentic connection. Eyes are the window to the soul. You will be seen here. You'll be heard. There's space for you. When this conversation comes to a close, I will ask our guests 3 questions. If you've tuned in before, you know what they are. And if you haven't, you don't want to miss them. But enough about me. Today, I'm excited to welcome Outstanding Women Leader, Bonnie Casamassima, MFA. Bonnie creates research-rooted experiences that help people and organizations connect with their intuition so they can live and lead with clarity, self-trust, connection, and joy. As a researcher, professor, and founder of Intuitive by Nature, she blends positive psychology, intuition research, and sacred connection with nature into educational programs, group experiences, speaking engagements, and personalized mentorship. Her work guides more aligned decisions and nervous system support, ultimately fostering well-being and purpose. She's the creator of Spark, a collaborative morning experience blending yoga, meditation, and a DJ-led disco dance party to celebrate community and self-expression. Bonnie holds a Master's of Fine Arts from the Savannah College of Art and Design and a Bachelor of Science from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. She lives in Knoxville with her partner and 2 incredible kids, chickens, 1 dog, and 1 turtle. She enjoys traveling, serving on the Knoxville, I don't know what this is, Pecha Kucha board, pottery on the wheel, dancing to live music while wearing costumes, and a good belly laugh. There's your belly laugh, and now I know something new about Knoxville. Welcome, Bonnie.
Aw, thank you so much for having me, Katie. It's really wonderful to be here. And hello to everyone listening in.
So Bonnie, you have a pretty interesting story. You're a researcher, you're a professor. Wait, but how do we get to intuition? And how do we get, tell me how what that looks like? Because my experience in academia is not an intuitive one.
It's quite a fun journey, and I'll synthesize it as a headline for our time together. But I was very analytical. I was very like spreadsheet focused, type A, and I was working in the research worlds of academia, and then kind of transitioning out of the corporate world. And I was working like 60 plus hours a week. And my friend, who was really worried about me, suggested that I try meditation because she was worried I was what we now know as burnout. We didn't have that word at the time. And my response to her was, pardon, I don't have time to meditate. But I trusted her. And long story short, the most I could do was like a 2-minute guided meditation on YouTube. And I got a little conference room over my lunch break one day and I listened to the 2-minute guided meditation and it felt so right in my body. I couldn't explain it. I didn't have the words for it, but it just felt so right. So I kept showing up. I kept trusting that nudge of what felt right. That meditation practice led me to having my intuition open up in a really, really strong way. I started receiving visuals and meditation, kind of like future predictions, other people's information. Started getting like really, really sensitive to the environment around me. Like came in a lot of different ways, and it was really overwhelming, and quite frankly, kind of like life rocking. Um, because I was at this space of, wait a second, like, am I this analytical, research focused person? Or am I this deeply sensitive, intuitive person? And the intuition felt so right. I couldn't explain why it just felt so right. So I kept trusting it, I kept following it. And I knew my experience and other people's experiences that I was in like mentorships with, trainings with, etc., on my own personal journey. And I was curious what were other people's experiences. Because for me, the more that I connected into it, the more that I trusted it, the more I learned how to discern my intuition, that gut feeling, those deep knowings, those visuals. Um, the clearer my life became, the more aligned I became, the less stressed I became. So, long story short, I led a research project where I interviewed others on their journey connecting with their intuition. Um, I'll share this story because I think it's really important to reaffirm like how this is so prevalent everywhere. I got the process reviewed and approved from a review board process for the research, and I put the call out to ask other people if they would like to share 30 minutes of their time sharing their experience connecting with their intuition. And I was expecting maybe kind of 4 or 5 people to respond over the next week to share their time based on past experiences with research projects. And Katie, I came back to my inbox the next day to over 30 applications of people wanting to share their experience connecting with their intuition. And these were doctors, nurses, CPAs, healing arts practitioners, therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, like you name it, a very wide range from across the world. Um, Range of genders, range of expressions, range of ages. And I asked them open-ended questions. It followed what's called a grounded theory research framework. Brene Brown is a social scientist that uses that same research process. And it basically says, instead of saying this is what we expect our outcome to be in the research, the hypothesis, we're going to instead ask people their lived experience on this topic through open-ended questions. These weren't yes/no questions, they were open-ended. Share with me what intuition is for you. Share with me about how that experience has been, etc. So we looked through hundreds of pages of notes and data, found that there were really clear patterns that emerged with people's experiences. That research and those findings is very life-changing. And it formed what is now intuitive by nature. And it's been quite the journey. And it's incredibly exciting to be here and to have those sacred conversations with people. I'm so grateful for the people that signed up for the research projects because it's their experience that really helped to shape the foundation of intuitive by nature, deeply rooted in research, so we can support everybody else. And not only knowing that this is something that is innate, but that it's our superpower if we really choose to connect with it on purpose. It's really powerful.
And anything that surprised you in that research or a pattern that just sticks out as something that you can't ignore?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones that two things, many things, but two things come up right now. The first one, in open-ended questions, one of them was, is there anything else that you would like to share? And 97% of people led with that they feel deeply that everyone is intuitive, everyone has this internal guidance system. And that wasn't a question, do you feel that everybody's intuitive, right? Like for them to voluntarily lead with that, that was huge. And then the second one was the power that people felt a stronger connection with their intuition and their discernment with it when they were in supportive, aligned communities. So those two things really stand out.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And any reason that you think that is, that they felt more intuitive and aligned communities?
I do. Yeah. I think we live, I know, and chatting a little bit in our bonus conversation, we often live in a society where the answer is quote unquote outside of us, or we're modeled that behavior. So maybe a parent is giving the information to a child, or a teacher is giving the information to a student. So we learn that patterning, and on our journey connecting with our intuition, we kind of like relearn that, wait a second, we can listen to what our inner knowing is, and to have that process occur in a framework that we're really comfortable with through witnessing and seeing other people's experiences. I think it's people shared, not I think, people shared that how affirming it was hearing other people's experiences, connecting with their intuition, how they used it in their business leadership decisions, how they felt this deep knowing and they couldn't explain why, but they were interviewing this candidate and something just felt off. Everybody else felt really aligned with this person, but something felt off. They went ahead and hired them anyway. And a few months in, it came out that that person's experience was they lied about it on their resume. Like they didn't really have any of the experience with it. So hearing experiences and stories like that from other people and often having those same sensations, knowings within their own internal experience, even if they were different scenarios, was so affirming for people that helped them to really anchor in their self-trust.
Self-trust, one of my favorite subjects to talk with
Yeah.
my clients. And I guess my takeaway in hearing that is just how much we mask and
Oh
not
my,
realizing that people are masking their intuition. And so many, like if you don't know where your breath is at all during the day, then you have no idea where your intuition is either. Um, Talk a little bit more about self-trust. Did you see any trends with, intuition being really tied to self-trust? Because I guess that's probably my research project just from my own head.
totally. Yeah. The number one reason people shared they weren't as able to connect with their intuition was self-doubt. So it very much is interwoven. The more that people developed an intentional relationship with their self-trust, the clearer their discernment with their intuition, and was it their intuition or a fear or maybe a stress response became. So there's a direct connection. Alongside that, what we also found in the research is that people's clarity with their intuitive connection came alongside their personal development journey. So maybe they were seeking self awareness resources such as coaching, therapy, and it could have even started with professional development because we know it's all interconnected. But the more that they really developed an intentional relationship with their own awareness, their own self trust, the times that their intuition guided them, but maybe they're like, maybe I shouldn't do that, and then they followed a different path to find out that maybe it wasn't the right path for them. The more that they connected in with their self-trust, the clearer their intuition became. The clearer their intuition became, the easier it was to honor that self-trust. It was very much a cycle, an upward spiral cycle.
Yeah, human design and gene keys for me was that self-trust.
Yeah.
I never looked back from like who I am as dysfunctional. It was
Yes.
that was the floodgate of opening it. It to me, that's every tree is unique, every flower is unique. It makes sense that we would have biodiversity, just
Yes.
biodiversity, which means, but here, humans are supposed to be the same. And so once I was over that hump immediately, that's where the breathing for me was the self-trust developing of when thoughts, if you
Yeah.
can't, and so many people can't trust their own thoughts. I imagine in these interviews that people are their relationship with an inner critic probably doesn't exist anymore if you are listening to your intuition and not a voice that's trying to undermine you.
Yeah. It definitely gets clearer. And I think the practices that help people connect in with their intuition help to create more awareness that it's an inner critic and not their only voice. So that kind of like being the observer role versus just following it. Some things to pull in the physical side of it and the neurological research with it too that can be really helpful is what we're finding is the more that we engage in practices that help to engage our theta brainwaves. And I know you and I have talked about this. So things like meditation, deep breathing, time in nature. Typically in our day to day, maybe when we're analyzing spreadsheets and we're looking at kind of more like analytical conversations, we're in what's known as our beta brainwaves. We need all of our brainwaves. They're all really important. It's not like one's better than the other. But when we get ourselves into alpha brainwaves, then theta brainwaves, what we're seeing is our nervous system feels really supported and safe. Our breath often starts to slow and deepen. And then when we get to that stage, we're able to connect in with the clarity of our intuition. We go through this cycle twice a day at least, or however many times you fall asleep and wake up. So that liminal space kind of between I'm not quite awake, but I'm not quite asleep yet. Our body is shifting into theta brainwaves. And then right when we wake up, so we're not quite asleep, but then we're kind of waking up, that liminal space where maybe things feel super clear. What we're finding is if we can really work with those windows, so maybe if we have an intention we want to set, we'll say it a few times before we go to bed or right when we wake up, we have a goal that we're working toward. The more that we can expand the time that we're spending in those theta brainwaves by things like supporting our nervous system, um, being aware of our inner critic, therapy, being in nature, being in a state of play and joy, the more we're able to tune into our intuitive knowing and have that be that clarity in our day to day. It's not about being there all the time, because again, we need all of our different brain waves, just like we need all of our different biological systems. But if we can find things that help us to get deeply into the present moment more and more, that clarity of our intuition and then that self trust tend to really follow powerfully.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you did any group research. It sounds like you did a individual, but in heart math, we know that the energy, the sum of, we're the sum of the parts. And so when you, as you were talking, it just made me think about how if every corporation just knew if their team sat there for 5 minutes and fed the energetic field with thoughts, ideas, they might be surprised that they will have several of the same thoughts and ideas because that's the consciousness and the cloud over there. Did you do any research on group intuition or were you just focused on the individual?
Yeah, the intuition cultivation theory research is rooted in individual experiences. They talked often about group dynamics along their individual experiences. So the research itself, it includes the group experience, but as far as like a researcher under that project, I've not done the research in the collective. I have done more anecdotally observations and conversations and experiences. I lead a lot of workshops, a lot of like leadership trainings, a lot of conferences, those type things. Have seen exactly what you're talking about. If we take just a few moments, even if they don't quite know what they're doing, right?
Mhm.
And we just let ourselves be in this space. We take a few deep breaths and we connect in. And then we go into our brainstorming or our strategy or our visioning for the future forecasting. The synergy of people's conversations, ideas, thoughts, it's powerful. You know this in the work that you do. So
Yeah.
a yes and in
One of my
response.
favorite exercises to have teams do is just to have everyone gently close their eyes, breathe into their heart, and then every person's name gets stated. Send Bonnie some, just think of something Bonnie's done really well and send her that energy. And we'll go through each person. And every time I do that, what I hear from people is it's so easy to forget how well people do things or how amazing they are when you're just go, 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 go. Right? Nobody, and the analogy I always give is like nobody high fives themselves when they pay the rent. They just expect that they're going to pay the rent. But the minute you don't pay the rent, all of a sudden people are like, oh man, it was really great when you were doing that. And so it was just that moment of locking in around if we're holding everybody at where they are at their best. Okay, now let's
Yes.
go in together and have planning. That's a very different attitude versus just coming in from whatever. Maybe Joe did make some extra work for you, and maybe Susan ignored that email because she doesn't have an answer yet. Like it's just a nice way of letting go of those things that don't matter. I so
Yes.
appreciate the research that you're doing. Very much ties in if you're listening and you're interested in heart math as well for breathing, intuitive by nature. And I'm going to wear my device at your upcoming event. So I'm excited to see some collective energy shifting. But tell us a little bit about the opportunity in Knoxville that people have to experience this.
Yes. Yeah. So there's an event that we throw called Spark. And it's a morning experience where mindfulness meets a disco dance party. And it's all about letting ourselves really come in, plug into ourselves, connect with each other to whatever level we want, and then carry that alignment, that spark out into everything that we're creating in the world. So there's a lot of research behind it, a lot of intention behind the sequencing. Our next one coming up, we're going to be collaborating with Sauna House, and it's going to be a little bit of a unique experience, but it's coming up July 27th. And we'll go through it. It's designed to be, it's for all genders, all expressions of genders, and all ages, with a focus on its adults. So, like, while sometimes people will bring their kids, it is a space for adults to come together and have a lot of fun, be in joy, be in play together, to whatever level they want that to be. So, the what of it, now that we've talked about the why, is we do gentle yoga, and it's designed to be very inclusive, kind of no matter abilities or for a wide range of abilities. I get really excited about it when I talk. So you hear that I'm like, my voice is shifting. How fun is that? Then we move into a gentle guided meditation. And then we move into just kind of like movement, guided movement. And then the DJ comes on. She's amazing. We collaborate with DJ Abracapocus. She's incredible, who now is Dr. Abracapocus. She just finished her PhD. So huge shout out to her. Um, and we come together in joy and connection. Typically, it's about an hour and a half experience. We're collaborating with Sauna House. So after that, people can do the sauna circuits, all about really connecting in with our inner worlds, supporting our nervous system, and then bringing that out into our day to day. It's really exciting.
Hmm. And as we wrap up, I have my three questions.
Yes.
What's your superpower?
I think my presence, no, I'm going to read my presence and my ability for people to feel deeply safe around me. I've heard it throughout my whole life, and it's been a journey to embody it as my superpower. But I'll have people come up and share their life story with me, and they feel deeply safe. And it's such an honor and privilege. And how I see that show up in spaces is how do I naturally help cultivate safety so everybody really allows their ideas and expressions to move through that.
And what's your purpose?
To cultivate safety and a deep connection with ourselves and each other. I feel that deep in my bones. That is the why of intuitive by nature and the through line of everything I've ever done. And it's really exciting to be where we are and to create that deep connection within ourselves first and then with each other. So that, and to do it in joy. Like, we're allowed to have so much fun with this. In fact, that is our superpower. When we let ourselves be in joy, everything else happens naturally with it.
It's a good reminder. My favorite question, what's next for you?
Hmm. Supporting at least 1 million people in connecting with their intuition in their everyday life and leadership through the mission of Intuitive by Nature. That we're at such an exciting time, by the year 2030. So 2030, we're just getting started in that. So really bringing this conversation in a number of ways through speaking engagements, workshops, incredible conversations like this, both virtual and in-person experiences, both live and on demand, to support people exactly where they are and have a joyful blast while doing it. So that,
Yes. I hope some type of collab with Owl hopefully is what's next for you as
yes.
well.
Oh, please know that goes without saying. 100%. 100%. Thank you for what you bring into the world. It's so incredible, Katie. It's so incredible.
Looking back at you. And I always give our guests the last word, whatever you'd like to leave our listeners with.
Oh my gosh. That when we root into our love rooted essence, we are powerful. The work that we let move through us is unstoppable. And the connection that we create and unification from that love rooted center is profound. So, giving ourselves permission to understand what are the things that help us to be more of that, do more of that. What are the things that maybe take us away from that center? Choose to do a little bit less of that, and then keep showing up in that alignment.